Spiritual Pizza with Buzz Coastin. Season 1, Episode 14
of the International Secret Police.
Chop wood and carry water.
Spiritual Pizza Slices with Buzz Coastin. Brought to you by BuzzCoastin.com. Go there for more information. For over 20 years now, I have walked the earth, met people, and got in adventures. Now, fast approaching my dotage, I am releasing an eclectic mix of trippy memorabilia that I collected while walking the earth. This first season of Spiritual Pizza Slices will offer audiobook chapter mashups with some backstories about the stories. Hope you enjoy the flashbacks from my trips. If you like this kind of thing, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends. And if you don't like it, well, be sure to tell your friends. And thanks for listening. Spiritual Pizza Slices with Buzz Coastin.
Season 1, Episode 14, Chop wood and carry water. This week, I thought I'd tell you about what it was like to be a Kalalau outlaw. Only a few hundred people were ever Kalalau outlaws, and I don't think there are still any outlaws in Kalalau today. Certainly, there are none from my era still there. Today I'm going to tell you what it was like for me to be a Kalalau outlaw, and maybe some of you will try it too. And it goes something like this.
Chop wood and carry water. Kalalau outlaw daily life. Koa koa mako. Naka Juliana Ana. We gather together to recall the past. The Kalalau outlaw. Every Kalalau outlaw that I knew was an authentic person, and by authentic I mean an uncompromising person without pretense. Outlaw life was, and is, a wide-open book in Kalalau Valley. There are no secrets in the jungle. Many outlaws I knew had tried their hand at living a normal life. This would lead them to conclude that chasing their tails in the money game was an exercise in futility. This conclusion prompted them to drop out of the game. But doesn't everyone really want out of the rat race? I think they do. Gimme a reason. The most frequent question about outlaw life is, why? Why live in an extremely primitive and remote environment only to be chased through the jungle by armed gunmen? Really? Why?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Rock and Rodney. Now you're WKL, your love station. We hear your feeling, that's okay.
I'm sure that sounds kind of heavy, but a stay in Kalalau is not at all heavy on the mind. Besides running and hiding, there's lots of free time and a lot better things to do than obsessing on a ranger scratch. And so what follows are some sketches of the daily life of a Kalalau outlaw. Staying in Kalalau for more than a week requires a significant amount of supplies. The weights and amounts of these supplies are dictated by the length of stay, the method of transporting them, and how you plan to store them once there. Your basic needs may vary from mine, but my bare minimum supply list includes coffee, dry milk, rice, beans, pasta, flour, tomato paste, cheese, yeast, soy sauce, olive oil, and canned meat. And don't forget to pack the tarps, bungee cords, pots, utensils, ropes, personal items, and fire-making stuff. A good book or two to read or to start fires with wouldn't hurt either. The hiking weight varies by individual. The very young and hardy can lug in about 100 pounds. 50 pounds is backbreaking for most, and anything less will lighten the load. I knew lots of outlaws who hiked in and out regularly for supplies. Learn to love the trail was their mantra. Being lazy, I always tried to get my supplies in by boat. The basic daily outlaw activities involved wood, water, and 5-gallon buckets. A grill comes in handy, but it's not mission critical. Wood is necessary to cook food, as is water. Well, an outlaw couldn't live without Kalalau river water. The time involved with collecting the day's wood and water could take about an hour or more, depending on your camp's location. You will also need 5-gallon buckets, preferably with screw-on lids. The buckets keep the food from other animals like rats, cockroaches, feral cats, feral pigs, and the rangers. But the only real predator for storage buckets is a ranger. Sometimes other campers. However, surprisingly, theft is rare among the outlaws. When people give things away, why steal? No one could live in Kalalau Valley without the river. There is a Hawaiian proverb, "Ola I kawai," and it's often translated as water is life. The river water was considered clean, pure, and sacred by the outlaws. One outlaw I know swears the Kalalau river water cured him of cancer. I drank it unboiled and unfiltered, and no problems for me. Most of the fallen wood we collected could be chopped without metal axes. A big rock or even your foot would do the trick most times. There was always an abundance of dead tree limbs lying around, and I tried keeping dry firewood handy because sometimes it rained for days, and without dry firewood, no hot food. Cooking meals takes about an hour from start to finish. But if you're Alaska Dave, it only takes minutes. The fire-making ritual went like this. Get the wood. Put in the kindling. Try to start the fire. Blow with the blow stick. Fan the flames. Get more wood. Add the bigger pieces. And then at full flame, put on the grill and add the casty or pot or both. Man, that's cooking. And that's a ritual. Everything I learned about living within nature while in Kalalau had a big influence upon me once I got back to the Outs. Even today, I spend as much time as possible outdoors, surrounded by sunshine, plants, and animals. And the MacGyvering skills I learned in Kalalau gave me the confidence and motivation to eliminate many civilized conveniences from my life. Now I fix simple things with duct tape and live without electricity when necessary, all of which has helped me become more self-reliant. And though I was never able to grow food in Kalalau, because the rangers routinely destroyed all the gardens, however, 20 years after Kalalau, I now grow about 50% of what I eat. And even better, I know how to do that difficult task. And I'm glad I do.
Outlaw things to do when not running from the Rangers. 1. Catch sunsets on the bluff. Sunsets on the bluff were amazing to behold. On the bluff, we had an unobstructed view of the western horizon. This was a great spot to view the sun dipping down below the horizon as it winks goodbye with a rarely seen green flash. The green flash occurs only in the last few milliseconds of the day, and only when the western horizon is cloud-free. I've lost count of how many green flashes I've seen over the years, but it's been a very long while since I've seen any green flash at sunset. The coloring of the sky at sunset could vary from a muted deep red sky to a slightly dull orange-coated one, and sometimes the sky had a faded olive green tint to it. Once I saw a sunset
the coloring of which left me speechless. No painting I've seen even comes close. Sunsets in Kalalau Valley are spectacular. 2. Chasing rainbows. Chasing rainbows was a lot of fun and yielded some interesting results. Though I never found a pot of gold at the end of any rainbow I chased, I did find rainbows to be more complex than I had originally thought. From a distance, the rainbow colors seemed to be just one color. But one time I was so close to a rainbow that I could see each color band up close. And to my astonishment, these color bands were swirling shades of the dominant color. It wasn't just one color of red. It was every version of red, swirling around in the red band. It was the same with the other color bands too. That was a pretty amazing discovery for me. 3. Watch the sidereal zodiac cross the night sky. Also from my vantage point on the bluff, I could watch the sidereal zodiac spin past me each night. One night, as I looked south towards Nuololokai, I saw Scorpio casually floating in the night sky as she emerged from behind the Kalalau Ridge. What a sight that was! That was the first time I had ever seen Scorpio in the night sky, and I was completely blown away by her majesty. It was so huge! It took up about 90 degrees of the night sky, and it was very low on the horizon. Its shape is so distinctive that you can't help but recognize it as Scorpio. In fact, it's easy to see why the Hawaiians called Scorpio Kamakau Nui o Maui, Maui's big fishhook. 4. Opihi picking in the early morning. Another activity I really enjoyed in Kalalau Valley was opihi picking. An opihi is a small Hawaiian shellfish that lives on the surface of the shoreline rocks. And right below the bluff was a shoal of rocks that had lots of opihi ready for picking. Even though they were plentiful, they were not easy to pick. Prying those little suckers off the rock is no small task. After I would pick a good amount of opihi, I would head back to my camp and cook them up in olive oil with a little water, and maybe some white box wine to make a little broth. At the same time, I would cook up some linguine, and voila, linguine with white opihi sauce. Ono bra. 5. Sweat in a sweat lodge. Kalalau sweat lodges were designed and built by the sweaty participants in Kalalau Valley. Bamboo poles for frames came from the bamboo grove at the bend in the river. Most of the coconut trees had been removed by the state decades ago, so tarps took the place of the insufficient cocoa thatch. A fire pit was in the center, and the lodge could hold about 10 to 15 people. Nice and cozy. The place got very hot, and then, with a little maneuvering, you could step out of the lodge and jump into the cold river, which was only a hop, skip, and a jump away. 6. Full moon party hardy. Before I had lived in Hawaii, I had never been to a full moon party. I never even heard of a full moon party being mentioned in my social circles. The full moon parties in Kalalau Valley were even more mellow affairs when compared to the full moon raves I had been to on the Big Island. Those parties on the BI were electronic music based out of giant speakers, and they lasted until dawn. Kalalau's full moon parties were all unplugged, and even better, my campsite was only a short hike away. 7. Have a spiritual pizza party. The year 2004 may have been the peak of spiritual pizza parties in Kalalau Valley. That year, the spiritual pizzas were so frequent, it's hard to remember any one party from another. When I arrived in Kalalau in 2002, spiritual pizza was still a rare treat. To get everything you want is not a good thing, said Heraclitus. What a buzzkiller that guy was. However, Heraclitus was right, because this was true about our spiritual pizza experience for sure. When Alikai made access to civilization easier than ever before, we got everything we wanted to access, including a lot of spiritual pizza. We also got fat, dumb, and lazy, as you will hear about later in the Ranger Scratch stories. However, upon my return to Kalalau Valley in 2007 for my last long stay, spiritual pizza was once again infrequent. Just like back in the good old days, when civilization was scarce, and so was spiritual pizza. Scarcity made the spiritual pizza more special when it did appear. So, Heraclitus would be pleased. It's also worth noting that Heraclitus' saying, "to get everything you want is not a good thing," was very consistent with my experience of Kalalau's mana, because I didn't get everything I imagined I wanted. However, I did get what I needed, and I could eventually see why not getting what I wanted was ultimately better for me. And sometimes, some things I desired and got later turned out to be very undesirable after all, and more trouble than they were worth. 8. Explore Kalalau Valley. Exploring Kalalau Valley is the only activity I wish I had done more. The valley is so wide and so deep that it would have taken me years to know all the ins and outs of it. In my limited explorations, I did find a lot of unusual rock structures, walls, elevated ballast roadways, lots of agricultural structures and earthworks, much of it half buried after several centuries of neglect. It's now an overgrown jungle filled with neglected ancient artifacts. Kalalau Valley is in as bad a shape as Angkor Wat was before the French restored it. One day, some of Kalalau's secrets will be revealed as well. 9. Fish in the ocean. In Kalalau, we sometimes had skilled fishermen in our midst. Surfer Fish was Kalalau's primo fisherman. He was your standard fishing pole in the water sort of fisherman. He caught a lua, a rare and tasty fish you will never find in a fish market. Surfer Fish provided lots of lua for the outlaws over the years. I always made sure I had wasabi and soy sauce around for lua. Mahalo, brah! The Hawaiians of old had fleets of canoes and hundreds of skilled fishermen to feed the people of Kalalau Valley. We had Surfer Fish and a few others, which was not quite the same. 10. Don't just do something, sit there. When you do absolutely nothing for hours on end, eventually something will happen. Someone will appear or something will occur. Like Roy appearing out of nowhere with beer, and you happen to be sitting there when it happens. This kind of nothing doing is the kind of nothing doing that can be done in Kalalau Valley. Larry calls it being a paid observer on the path of least resistance. It is the pièce de résistance of outlaw life. This list of things to do is by no means exhaustive, and while trying to convey the experiences behind these words, the words seem so inadequate to me. Kalalau Valley is an experience that defies being fenced in by words and governments. However, that does not mean these words are unable to help you have your own Kalalau experience. That's because Damana is everywhere. My daily activities are not unusual. I'm just naturally in harmony with them. Grasping nothing, discarding nothing. And every place there's no hindrance, no conflict. My supernatural power and marvelous activity is drawing water and carrying firewood. When the mind is at peace, the world too is at peace. Nothing real, nothing absent. Not holding on to reality, not getting stuck in the void. You are neither holy nor wise, just an ordinary person who has completed their work. Layman Pon, 750 CE, Tang Dynasty, Buddhist sage.
Hope you enjoyed your slice of spiritual pizza. If you can't wait for more, the audiobook is on sale for $9.99 at buzzcoastin.com. And that's the last time I'm going to tell you about it in this podcast. Or you can subscribe and wait for the story to unfold. And be sure to tell your friends about the Buzz. Thanks for listening.
It's my happening, baby, and it freaks me out. Yeah, man!
Outro. This podcast is a message in a digital bottle. Thanks for picking it up. You can connect with me using buzz@buzzcoastin.com. You can also find more about my creative efforts at buzzcoastin.com. If you like this podcast, be sure to tell your friends. And if you didn't like it, be sure to tell your friends. And thanks for listening.